wondered where you might be met with the chilliest reception? Buckle up, because we're about to take a wild ride around the globe to the top 10 rudest countries you won't believe exist. Now, don't get us wrong. We're not saying the people in these places are bad. Far from it. We're simply exploring some cultural quirks that might come off as a bit brusque or standoffish to outsiders. It's a fun, light-hearted look at the diverse ways people around the world interact. Imagine you're stepping off a plane into a new country where a simple hello might be met with a gruff grunt or an indifferent shrug, but don't take it personally. Remember, what might seem rude to us could just be the norm there. It's all part of the rich tapestry that makes up our global community. So, are you ready to dive into the frosty deep end? Here we go. First stop on our chilly world tour is Russia. Nestled far up in the northern hemisphere, Russia's frosty reputation isn't just because of its sub-zero winters. Some travelers may tell you that the locals can come across as a bit, shall we say, frosty? But let's not jump to conclusions just yet. The perceived rudeness of Russians, more often than not, is a result of cultural misunderstandings. Let's break this down a bit, shall we? You see, Russians have a communication style that can seem quite direct to outsiders. They value straightforwardness and honesty, and they don't beat around the bush. While some might consider this bluntness to be rude, it's simply a matter of cultural perspective. Consider this. In Russia, small talk is not a common social practice, as it is in other parts of the world. This may make Russians seem standoffish or uninterested, but it's not a sign of rudeness. It's just a different way of social interaction. Another common misconception is that Russians are always serious and never smile. That's not entirely true. In Russian culture, a smile is something genuine, reserved for friends and family, not wasted on strangers or casual acquaintances. So if you're not greeted with a beaming smile, don't take it personally. It's just their way of keeping things real. It's also worth noting that Russian hospitality is legendary. Once you're invited into a Russian home, you'll be treated like royalty, with an abundance of food, drink, and warm conversation. So let's put the stereotypes aside. What might appear as rudeness to an outsider is merely a different cultural norm. A norm that champions honesty, authenticity, and genuine connections over superficial pleasantries. So, if you're a fan of straight talk and no chit-chat, Russia might just be the place for you. Now let's jet off to the land of the Queen and afternoon tea, England. Here, in this little island nation, the locals are known for their stiff upper lip, an attitude of stoic reserve and unflappable calm. It's a country where rain is just a light drizzle, and a disaster is merely a spot of bother. But to outsiders, this cool, unruffled demeanor can sometimes be misconstrued as rudeness. You see, the Brits have a reputation for being a bit reserved, a tad aloof. It's not that they're trying to be rude. It's more like they're just keeping their emotions in check, playing it cool. They're masters of the understated, the subtle, the politely indirect. A British person might say, "I'm not sure that's quite right," when what they really mean is, "That's completely wrong." But this British restraint, this stiff upper lip, can sometimes come across as cold or standoffish to those from more exuberant cultures. Where some people might greet each other with a hug and kiss in England, a firm handshake will suffice. And don't expect effusive compliments either. If a Brit says your work is not bad, that's high praise indeed. Yet it's crucial to remember that this isn't rudeness, at least not in the British sense. It's just a different way of expressing oneself. Brits tend to value privacy and personal space, and this can often be mistaken for aloofness or indifference. So if you find yourself in England, don't be put off if the locals seem a bit reserved. It's not that they're being rude, they're just being, well, British. And who knows, once you get to know them, you might just find that beneath that cool exterior beats a heart of gold, or at least a love for a good cuppa. Because let's face it, nothing breaks the ice in England like a shared appreciation for a well-brewed pot of tea. But remember, beneath that cool exterior beats a heart of gold, or at least a love for a good cuppa. Scene script. Next, we're off to the city of love, lights, and snubs. Welcome to France. Here's a stereotype that's been around for quite some time. the rude Parisian. You might have heard stories of waiters brushing off tourists or locals giving cold stares when asked for directions. But is there any truth to this notion? Well, it's not as straightforward as it seems. Let's start off by acknowledging that yes, some people have had less than pleasant experiences. This could be due to a variety of reasons. But before we jump to conclusions, it's essential to consider the cultural differences at play. In France, there's a strong emphasis on formality and etiquette. It's not about being snobbish, rather, it's about respect. For instance, greeting someone with a bonjour or bonsoir before asking for help or making a purchase is seen as common courtesy. It's like saying, I see you as a fellow human being and not just someone who's here to serve me. So if you skip this little formality, it could be perceived as rude, leading to a not-so-warm response. Additionally, Parisians are known for their love of the French language. So if you make an effort to speak French, even if it's just a few phrases, you're more likely to be met with a friendly response. It's not that they can't or won't speak English, but that they appreciate the gesture of you trying to communicate in their language. Furthermore, Paris is one of the most visited cities in the world. Imagine living in a city constantly swarming with tourists, and you might understand why some locals might seem a bit distant. It's not personal, it's just a part of city life. So, is the French snub a reality? Well, it's more of a misunderstanding fueled by cultural differences. Approach with respect, try to speak a bit of French, and remember to start your interactions with a warm bonjour. It's all about understanding the cultural norms and respecting them. So brush up on your French and remember to say bonjour. It could make a world of difference. Scene script, ready for a rapid-fire rundown of some other countries with frosty reputations. Let's kick things off with Germany. Known for their precision and efficiency, Germans are often perceived as rude due to their direct and no-nonsense approach to communication. They value honesty and straightforwardness, which can sometimes come across as abrupt or even harsh to outsiders. But remember, in Germany, it's not about being impolite, it's about getting to the point. Next stop, China. With its dense population and fast-paced lifestyle, it's no wonder that some visitors might find the locals a bit brusque. In Chinese culture, it's all about survival of the fittest, so don't be surprised if someone jumps the queue or pushes past you in a crowded space. It's not rudeness, it's just a different social norm. Then, we have India, a country of contrasts. With a rich tapestry of cultures, languages, and traditions, it's easy to misinterpret certain behaviors as impolite. For instance, Indians often ask personal questions or stare, not out of rudeness, but out of curiosity and a genuine interest in others. So don't take it personally. On to South Korea, a country steeped in Confucian values. Respect for elders and authority is paramount, and failing to adhere to these norms can be seen as highly disrespectful. From the outside looking in, this can sometimes be perceived as rudeness, especially if you're not familiar with the customs. And finally, we land in Italy, the land of La Dolce Vita. Italians are known for their passionate and expressive nature. They're loud, they use a lot of hand gestures, and they're not afraid to tell you what they think. While this can sometimes be seen as rude or too forward by outsiders, for Italians, it's simply a way of life. So, there you have it. 5 countries where the locals' behaviors might sometimes be perceived as rude. But remember, what may seem rude to us might just be a cultural norm to them. It's all about understanding and respecting these cultural differences. Phew, that was a whirlwind tour of the world's rudest countries, but remember, one person's rude is another person's straightforward. And now, drum roll please, the rudest country of them all, the United States. Yes, you heard that right. The land of the free and the home of the brave also happens to be the nation that's often perceived as the rudest. But why is that? First and foremost, there's the issue of outspokenness. Americans are known for being direct and not shying away from expressing their opinions, which can sometimes come off as brash or impolite to those from more reserved cultures. This cultural difference can lead to misunderstandings, with some people interpreting this forwardness as rudeness. Then there's the tipping dilemma. In the United States, tipping is customary, almost obligatory. But when Americans travel abroad, they often carry this habit with them, not realizing that in some countries, tipping can be seen as offensive or even insulting. This, inadvertently, can lead to locals perceiving Americans as rude or ignorant of their customs. And let's not forget the stereotype of the loud, obnoxious American tourist. While it's unfair to generalize, unfortunately, the actions of a few can paint a broad brush on the many. This stereotype, fueled by media and popular culture, further adds to the perception of Americans as the rudest nationality. But it's important to remember that rudeness, like beauty, is in the eye of the beholder. What one person perceives as rude, another might see as straightforward and honest. Cultural differences can often lead to misunderstandings, but they also make our world a fascinating and diverse place. So, is the United States really the rudest country? Well, it depends on who you ask. But one thing's for sure, Americans with their larger-than-life personalities definitely leave a lasting impression wherever they go. So whether you're a Star-Spangled Banner fan or not, there's no denying that America makes its mark. Well, that's it, folks. A quick jaunt around the globe visiting some of the rudest countries. But remember, we've just completed a whirlwind tour of the top 10 countries that are often perceived as the most disrespectful. From the icy aloofness of the cold north to the infamous French snub, we've traversed the globe and dipped our toes in a variety of cultures, each with their own unique brand of brusqueness. But let's circle back for a moment, shall we? In the number 10 spot, we had the cold north, where the frigid temperatures are often matched by an equally frosty demeanor. But hey, it's nothing personal, it's just the way they roll. Then we moved on to the stiff upper lip, where a certain aloofness can sometimes come across as rudeness. But remember, beneath that frosty exterior, there's a heart of gold. Next up, we took a stroll down the streets of the French snub. Ah, the French, masters of the art of indifference. But don't take it to heart. It's all part of the charm. Following that, we had a quick-fire roundup of several other countries that are known for their brusqueness. Remember, these are just perceptions, not hard facts. And finally, the moment you've all been waiting for, the rudest country of them all. But we won't spoil the surprise for those who haven't seen it yet. You'll have to check it out for yourself. Now, it's important to remember that these rankings are based on perceptions and cultural differences, not hard facts. What may seem rude to one person could be completely normal to another. It's all about perspective. And let's not forget, travel is all about experiencing new things and stepping out of our comfort zones. It's about understanding and appreciating the different ways people interact and communicate. So, when we label a country as rude, it's not a criticism. It's an invitation to delve deeper, to look beyond the surface, and to understand the reasons behind the behavior. So as you embark on your travels, keep an open mind, be respectful of local customs and traditions, and most importantly, don't let a few grumpy faces ruin your adventure. Remember, there's a whole world out there waiting to be explored. And yes, sometimes it can be a little rude, but that doesn't make it any less fascinating or worth visiting. So, next time you're off globetrotting, don't forget to pack your sense of humor and a thick skin. After all, it's a wild, wonderful, and sometimes a wee bit rude world out there.